So there's been a lot of DMs going down for me with Sober October questions. Where do I start? How do I start? I'm worried about my drinking. I'm sober curious. I struggle with my drinking. How do I start? How do I get going with Sober October, basically? A lot of the questions are from people I don't really know, or some of them are from people I've never met before who just reach out on this page. So all are welcome here. I love that. I wish that I was an expert, but let me tell you from my honest truth that Sober October never worked for me. Sober October never worked for me. I never made it longer than 3 weeks in 22 years of drinking without drinking. My friends would be like, when are you getting back on the sauce? Or I would just get back on the sauce. I didn't think I was socially worthy to stop or do anything without alcohol in my hand, to go to a dinner, to go to a brunch, to go to the park with a friend. Like, when I was trying to cut back, it never worked for me. So that's called attempting to be a moderation drinker. And if you're an alcoholic, which I do call myself an alcoholic, because you know what? I used to call it disordered drinking, and then I realized I drank 3 to 6 or 7 nights a week for like 22 years. By any fucking definition, that's an alcoholic, okay? But we call it normal in our society. We call it normal. I don't think it's normal. Now that I'm sober and I live like a fucking normal person without it, and I realize how bad I felt before, I don't think it's normal, okay? I think that is alcoholic behavior. Not being able to stop for Sober October is alcoholic behavior. Whatever. You can call it high functioning. You can say I looked good. I can say I made my best effort and I did a good job. Did I feel as good as I feel now? Not a snowball's chance in hell. Like, I was struggling. I was white knuckling it. And that's the whole thing about high functioning, right? You need to make it look good. You need to sell it to everyone around you. I've had so many people come up to me and say like, oh my God, I love your videos, but I had no idea you had a drinking problem. Like, just to let you know, like, I didn't know you had a drinking problem. You didn't look like you had a drinking problem. Well, that's actually most people, is what I'm learning. Most people on this app, if you were to look at their profiles, or even just look at yourself, if you're watching this video right now, you'd say that person's normal. They have 2 kids, or they got a couple teenagers going to college, or they meditate, they go to the gym, they look good, they're in shape, they lift weights, they look after their family, whatever. It doesn't mean they're not an alcoholic, and it doesn't mean they don't hide things. It doesn't mean that they don't have unhealthy relationship with alcohol. It doesn't mean they don't binge drink. It doesn't mean they don't fucking cry and feel depressed and turn to alcohol, and it's a vicious circle for them. Like, no one really knows what is going on for you underneath the surface, right? So if you find yourself researching sober content all the time, watching sober videos and looking up sober content, maybe it's your sign that you're ready to stop drinking alcohol. For me, this was the case. I was sober curious for a good year and a half before I actually was able to quit drinking, because quite frankly, I didn't think quitting drinking was an option for me. I thought I would be the old lady by the pool with the martini with the blue cheese olives at 1 p.m. 100%. Like, I looked down the barrel of the gun of my life. I was like, I'm a drinker. That's all I know about myself. I love to drink. Everyone I know loves to drink, right? Why would I even think there was a possibility? Why would I even want to stop, right? I must have been crazy to want to stop. I must have been crazy when it stopped being fun. But that's the reality. When you are sober curious, when you're looking up that content, when you're reaching out and saying, hey, I want to do Sober October, but I don't know where to start. That means you might need to look at alcohol in your life, and you might have a problem with alcohol. Because here's the thing about Sober October is you're still letting the alcohol dictate the schedule of your life, right? It's like, okay, alcohol, I'm going to stop October 1, but I'll be back. I'll be back on November 1st. Is that okay? And alcohol's like, I guess I'll give you 1 month, you little bitch, but you better be back November 1st, 6 p.m. for your bottle of wine on Wednesday or whatever. Like, it knows you're coming back, right? And in your mind, when you do that 1 month, you know you're going back. And that's why I like to look at the overall picture, because for a lot of us, it's actually addict tendencies to schedule 1 month off alcohol. It's actually addict tendency to try to, okay, well, I proved I could do a month, or I proved I could do a year, but I'll be back. I'm going back, because alcohol is still the reward. And that's the difference. When you decide, like, I'm actually ready to quit alcohol because it's no longer benefiting me, and alcohol is something that makes me feel darker, more depressed, more anxious, carries extra weight on my body, affects my sleep, affects my moods, makes me ragey at my kids, makes me, turn to it all the time, makes me feel like there's no other options. Scheduling alcohol into your busy life, that is a huge one. Let's talk about that. Oh, how do you have the time? Someone asked me, how do you have the time to do this TikTok? How did I have the time to drink 3 to 6 nights a week for 25 years? Does anyone ever ask you, how do you have the time to drink wine every night? How do you have the time to binge drink 1 or 2 weekend nights every night? How do you have the time to schedule 3 beers with dinner every night? How do you have the time to go to the liquor store? How do you have the time to fucking schedule everything that alcohol takes out of your life, when you could have so many more things that you do? So when you schedule Sober October, that's a phenomenal way to start, because it will show you how awesome you feel without alcohol in your life, but it also lets alcohol dictate your schedule and your calendar, just like it always does. At least in my case, it always did. So I think there's a larger discussion around Sober October. And if you're someone who's like sober curious, looking to change your relationship with alcohol or investigate your relationship with alcohol, you should do that. And that is amazing. And I encourage you 100%, 150% to do that. So much of it is tied up in obligation, right? Family obligation. Oh, well, I mean, I have to drink. I'm going to a dinner party with my family. We always drink wine. It would be weird for me not to drink wine. I have to go. I'm seeing this friend. We've got drunk for 22 years together. Like, I can't see this friend without drinking. We're having a steak. Well, I can't have steak without red wine. Like, right? There's always a reason to drink. There's always 365, baby. There's a reason to drink. And that's why moderation drinking never worked for me. And putting a schedule on alcohol never worked for me, because I would just always be like, well, what's the point? I don't need to prove that I can go a month. I could do it. I just don't want to. Or if someone's like Sober October, white knuckling it, and then they're like, okay, well, I'm going back November 1st. Like, don't worry, guys. That's how I was. Anytime I'd try to stop drinking, I'd be like having to apologize to friends, or like even to myself. Like, well, I'll be back. I know I'm going to be a loser for a while, but I'll be back. And I think there's so much pressure on us to prove that we're having fun by drinking alcohol. But there are discussions happening where people are like, I don't actually feel like this is fun anymore. They're kind of like checking themselves for like a pulse. They're checking themselves like, shit, like, do I actually feel like I'm having fun? Is this actually fun? And I knew that's when I was sober curious, because it stopped being fun, right? Alcohol, like, a million times had been super fun. Like, even though you should just suffer through a billion hangovers, I can't describe to you the level of hangovers and partying that I've done in my day, and the drugs and the cigarettes and everything else that goes along, with the alcohol lifestyle, party lifestyle that I was doing for so many years. But when I became sober curious, I was more so because it wasn't fun anymore. And I felt like it was an obligation, but I also didn't know there was the option of stopping. So this is your sign. This is your permission that you can stop. And it doesn't just have to be for Sober October. You don't need to go back and suck alcohol's D November 1st. You actually can just level up your entire life and keep going if you want to. So you can just think about what works for you. If you want to go back November 1st, go back November 1st. Like, it's what works for you in your life. But you don't owe anyone getting drunk. You don't owe your family, your friends. You don't owe anybody. If you don't want to do it and it's not fun for you anymore. Boundaries. Saying no. Level up your life in every other way, and you will not regret it, because alcohol's not your friend. It never has been. It wasn't my friend. I thought it was my best friend for like 25 years. I can tell you, I am my own best friend. I am my own best friend. And then when you're your own best friend, everyone else becomes just more amazing as well, because it's like, shit, life is just better. Peace.